And let's jump in. So why mobile? Why should you be thinking about mobile options? Well, the first one has become very obvious over the last few months, which is a increased demand for need of contactless options. Uh, I believe, and I think everyone believes this trend is very much here to stay, and you need to get out in front of it now. You can also use mobile to explore some new revenue options or opportunities, such as offsite events, trunk shows, festivals, industry events. And with a handheld option that we'll look at, you can sell from anywhere with direct connectivity back to your Retail Pro system. And that's not to say that you're not already doing it, right? So that's the bullet point of integrating existing events. You may already be doing them, but perhaps you're doing them manually, right? Pen and paper, writing up sales, manual credit cards. And at the end of the day, that's going to cost you time and it's going to cost you money, because that time is money and mistakes are money. So if we can enter this stuff directly into the point of sale from wherever we are, this is going to help save us both time and money in the long run. Always like to pepper in a couple statistics when I can. These are from a report done about third quarter last year that I found that basically says 44% of all stores now utilize mobile point of sale in some fashion. And 79% of those users are small to mid-sized businesses. This one I actually found to be the most interesting. Not just the fact that mobile's growing at over 9% per year, but that traditional point of sale or POS sales are falling at 2.5% per year. So as more people move mobile, they're moving away from traditional point of sale, traditional large registers. So when we talk about a mobile, at least here at IMS, our partner is eMobile POS. eMobile POS has been integrated with us for many years, directly integrated with Retail Pro. So as the bullet point says, it's a POS software to complement Retail Pro. Retail Pro is still your inventory system of record, and eMobile can simply be a POS add-on. What does this mean? It means you're not managing two systems. You simply have an option at the front end that's utilizing all your existing back-end data. So all of your inventory, your on-hand counts, all of your taxes, your price levels, your customers, all of that information can flow directly over anytime products are updated, prices are changed. Just as any other register or any other store location or your web store would do, it sends information back and forth. One of the distinct advantages, though, with eMobile is the device itself, whether it be a handheld or a different type of device that we'll look at in a little bit, holds the Retail Pro, the inventory data on it. So it can be used completely off the network. It works completely in the cloud, which means I only need to have an internet connection at some point to synchronize my data. I can be doing all the sales I want offline, including store and forward for credit cards, and then simply synchronize that data. And I think the coolest option we have right now is a handheld device that even includes a cellular data plan on all 4 major carriers. So really, you don't need Wi-Fi, you just need cellular service, and you can perform the same thing. So we'll look at that a little deeper as we go along. And it's omni-channel. So it's traditional point of sale, kiosk, and mobile customer-facing order app called Tuppix. And we will be looking at all 3 of those here in just a little bit. Easy integrations and updates. So eMobile is very flexible. We work hand in hand with them to be able to do integrations and things that you may need specific to your operation. And because it runs on iOS or Android, the updates are just like any other app on your phone, where they can update automatically, or you can simply go into the App Store and select those updates. And as I said, customer self-ordering with Tuppix, store and forward options, and P2PE for credit cards for PCI compliance. So all of that is covered as well. And then just here's a little timeline overview of eMobile. As you can see, eMobile's been doing this a long time. They have multiple industry awards and recognitions. They were the first POS on the App Store. And as you can see, the number at the bottom, they've processed over 3 billion transactions. Again, not the new kid on the block. And a lot of those 3 billion transactions, we like to say, have been done with IMS on some of the largest stages there are, such as the last 5 Super Bowls, Major League Baseball events, and the US Open of tennis. These are actually just a few examples. I could go on and on about all of the different scenarios and locations where we have eMobile deployed. And they're all, so in this case, when we look at some of these major events, let's think about incredibly high volumes of transactions over a short period of time on hundreds of devices, all connected to the same instance of Retail Pro, back to the same set of inventory. So if eMobile can handle these events, I can tell you with certainty that it can handle your business. And as I said, this can work on a variety of devices, iOS or Android, but really there's 2 in particular that we're excited about, and I wanted to cover those today. Both of these devices are from the same manufacturer, and both of them are true all-in-one devices. This version here, this is the full-size, more traditional POS device, but even in that capacity, you can see that it has a very low-profile, slimline look to it versus what we would kind of think of a big, clunky point of sale. This thing has a built-in scanner, 2D scanner, receipt printer, an NFC reader for things like Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and Android Pay, even has an EMV card slot for chip cards. And really the only thing you would need to add to this is a cash drawer, and that's it. This unit is simple to use, easy to move, and it's designed to be a retail hardened machine. You know, I want to point that out because, as I said, iOS, not a problem. But we really steer towards some of these Android devices because they are purpose built for this industry. Whereas an iPad, great, it works, but at the end of the day, you may be replacing them a bit more often as they are a consumer device. And then the second device, as I said, same manufacturer. This is a handheld version, but even the handheld version is in fact all-in-one. In the back, it includes a built-in printer. It has a built-in 2D barcode scanner, an NFC reader for chip cards, or an NFC reader for Apple Pay, Android Pay, Samsung Pay, and an EMV slot for chip cards. And additionally, as I mentioned before, you have an option for cellular data to even operate this outside of available Wi-Fi. And as of now, as of today, this is available on all 4 of the major carriers. So whichever one's going to fit your area best is available. And in addition to those POS devices, there are other options just because of how flexible the app is. eMobile can be configured as a traditional point of sale, as you see in the middle, self-service kiosk there on the left, and a customer-facing app in Tuppix, which that's actually a screenshot from my phone. So we'll be looking at that exact screen here as a demo transaction. I also wanted to point out beyond the hardware, the software model, and really what we have as far as an all-in pricing. So the software model is a true SaaS product in the cloud. We can offer annual and seasonal pricing options, so it's flexible. Whether you are an all-around seasonal business, you have seasonal events, special events that come up, where you may want to do some short-term things, we can work with you on almost any of those options. We have a lot of flexibility. And our all-in pricing model, that actually includes hardware as well. So both of those units that you saw, the larger one and the handheld, those can be leased to include replacement upon in warranty damage, and that can all be rolled in one monthly payment. So for one payment per device includes the hardware, the software, even the cellular data service. So you've got one bill, one device, and that's it. Okay, so enough explanation. Let's actually take a live look at these products. So for this demo, I'm going to do a high-level overview, as I usually do, of eMobile POS in all the available formats. We're going to look at the traditional POS, the mobile ordering with Tuppix, and we're even going to look at the kiosk edition, just to see really the similarities. So it's a simple flow between the formats, but then the distinct differences that make each one valuable in the format that it is. So to really gauge where interest lies, before we do this demo, I wanted to do one more poll. I know we just did one, but I wanted to do another one. So let's go ahead and get that up. And for this one, for those of you who are considering mobile options for your retail store, which was a large percentage of people from the first poll, which hardware format do you think would be most applicable to your business? Is it the more traditional point of sale? Is it handheld? Is it kiosk? Is it a customer-facing app? And I know that for some of you, maybe many of you, it's going to end up being a mix, and that's okay. But which one of these kind of stands out as far as where your interest lies, so I can kind of think about that as we go through the demo of the different formats. Okay, we are actually getting a lot of votes on this very quickly. That is good. And while I give that another 30 seconds, I'm just going to make sure I have all of my demo stuff tuned up here and I'm connected to all my systems. And then I would say, let's go ahead and close up that poll so we can take a look at that. Okay, so it's actually a pretty good split here. A little bit of traditional point of sale. You know, maybe it's just something you want to look at a different type of hardware, and that it's the E700, that full-size unit caught your interest. Certainly handheld, right? This is mobile we're talking about. So to have a handheld device, and I know as soon as people hear that it's an all-in-one with cellular data that you can just grab and go, that certainly gets the interest of a lot of people. And then a little bit of a split there between kiosks and customer-facing app. Honestly, I think to a lot of people, that's kind of a new segment. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it's new in a lot of retailers' minds. But really, it is something you've got to start looking towards as we move towards this whole world of contactless wherever we can. So good information. I think we have a good split, so I will give some equal weight to all of the different formats. Okay, so what you see here on the screen, on the left side, this is actually my phone. So this is the Tuppix mobile app, and I'm going to cover that second. First, I want to cover on the right. This is the traditional point of sale unit. So the hardware that we saw in that first hardware slide, that's this. It's running on an Android all-in-one device. And as you can see, very clean, very simple format of the point of sale. All of this information came from Retail Pro. So I'm doing a small sample here, right? I've got hats and sunglasses. Maybe this is my business, or maybe I'm at a festival and this isn't normally what I sell, but I saw an opportunity to maybe sell some hats and sunglasses on a hot day at a festival, right? That's the kind of thing that you can think about new revenue streams where those might become available. So you can see the way I have it set up here is I have a main menu that has all of my items. I can also come in here and select just hats or just sunglasses and bring it down to those categories. So very simple to do, a very touch-friendly layout. And of course, there's barcode scanning as well and item lookup, right? So if it's not on the touch screen, then we can certainly look up items as well. So if you're doing beyond just an event and say, hey, I want to have all 5,000 items from my product catalog in this mobile device, that's fine. We can do that. It's no more taxing on the system, still runs fast, and we would use traditional barcode scanning. As I mentioned, things like customer price levels, tax areas, all of that stuff comes over automatically from Retail Pro, your credit card setup, the tenders that you take. So all of that is determined by Retail Pro. All we're doing here is we're simply finalizing a point of sale transaction. We can add customers to this. Like I said, those come over. They would get their appropriate price levels if you have those set up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple items. So I'm going to just select a pair of aviator sunglasses and a blue hat. I can tap on any one of these items. I can do things like modify it, remove it, override the price, which can be locked down to a manager. So we do have that security functionality as well. I can make any additional changes. If you look in the bottom left, you see I can very simply flip this to a return as well. So if this is a return transaction, we can simply say, now it's a return. We get a nice big bright red bar at the top to let the cashier know that they're in a return mode. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this as a return. And I'm simply going to check out. Now, this option here I've left turned on, which is to enter your email or phone number. If that's something you want to do, great. If not, there are a lot of settings within this application that you can go in and configure, or we can help you configure and set up. And you may say, hey, I'm trying to do high volume, short time transactions. That's great. So there's simply a box that says, hey, skip the email and phone question. I'm not going to capture that information. Now, whether this is a return or a sale, it doesn't matter. In this case, we're just returning $35 back. We have our cash, we have our credit card, and my system here has our status, which is our loaded value, our reward system, loyalty, and our advanced promotions. If you guys don't know about status, certainly would love to talk to you about it. A lot of great options well beyond just loaded value and gift cards. Simply going to do cash here. And you can see I've got all my quick cash buttons on the Android, same as the iOS, it pops up a simple keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and just take an exact amount for our purpose. And I'm going to process the transaction. And that's it. We're on to the next one. To give you an idea of the simplicity and the speed of use, I'm going to do one more transaction without the explanation, and just we can see how quick this is. Right, so sunglasses, hat, checkout, cash, exact, and process, and that's it. And these transactions are going back to Retail Pro, nearly live, so it takes maybe 30 to 60 seconds, and this is going to show up as a standard receipt in Retail Pro, just like any other receipt. It's going to have a workstation, it's going to have a cashier, it's going to have all the appropriate items and the appropriate tenders, so that your reconciliation is very simple to do, just like you would from any other point of sale device. And then, as I said, on the left side of the screen here, this is my Tuppix app. This is my customer facing app. And to give you a little background on this, the way that a customer would get this could be as simple as just a QR code. And the QR code would have the store information on it. You can even utilize the codes to take them to specific stores. So if you have multiple locations, they could scan a code for a single location, or they could scan a code that gives them the ability to shop at all your locations. You could even have specialized menus. So this Tuppix app, now you may sell 5,000 products, but you only want to sell a handful of them through this app. That's fine. You can really set what all the parameters are. The flow and function is pretty similar to the traditional point of sale. Keep in mind this is a customer-facing app, and I think at this point in the year 2020, we're all familiar enough with, especially now, we're familiar enough with Grubhub and DoorDash and every other mobile ordering app, and we just understand how this stuff works. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to select a hat, I'm going to add a quantity, and I'm going to add it to my cart. I'm going to go ahead and select another pair of sunglasses and add that to the cart as well. We can see up in the top right, our cart quantity is updated. We can go here, we can see all the information, we can make any edits or modifications. And one other thing I want to point out while we're on this screen, the icon that is right here, this is actually a camera, which will pull up your camera, which will act as a barcode scanner on your phone. So when we think about a customer-facing app like this, we think traditionally, I'm either ordering something for delivery or for pickup in store or pick up at a specific location at an event. But think about this option as well when we talk contactless, which is the ability for customers to build their own cart within your store. So they can scan their QR code, pulls the whole product catalog. They simply walk around, they scan barcodes of the items that they select. Perhaps they take them to a register to be verified, or perhaps they put them all in a clear bag. They check out through the app with their credit card, and instead of going through any point of sale process, they simply go to the front door and show a receipt and show their bag and just verify that they paid for their purchase. So you could do a total contactless, cashierless situation where a customer simply builds and pays for their own cart as they go. So that's another really nice feature as we think about contactless. In this case, I'm just going to check out. And as it goes to checkout, you can see I've got options for delivery or pickup. You can configure what those kind of time windows are, do things like if it's for an event, we can do a cutoff time for orders. So there's a lot of configuration that can be done to really make this work for you. I'm simply going to continue. And because I use this app often, I have a saved test credit card in here. Don't worry, I'm not getting charged $35. It's just a test card. And I'm going to go ahead and select that card, which is already selected for me, and I'm going to place the order. And then I'm going to put in my test card security number. And it's going to go ahead and it's going to process the payment. Once it processes the payment, it's going to obviously pop up here in the app and say, hey, everything's taken care of. You're good to go. And I'm also going to get a receipt. And I'm going to get a receipt actually in 3 formats. So number one, I'm going to get a text message, and that should come here right away. And you can see this is my order. This is Thursday, June 11th, 2020. We can see the time on it of 11:45 a.m. I paid by Visa, and here's all my information. So this is something where I could go and show my receipt to say, here's my order and I'm here to pick it up. I can even go as far as to click on and pull up the actual receipt through the Tupix website. I get this as an email as well. And of course, within the app, I can go to my wallet, pull up my receipts, and it'll refresh to pull in any updated receipts. Here's my June 11th. And we can see not only the receipt information, but the pictures as well. So again, multiple ways for me to pull that transactional data from my device to say, here, I paid for this, this is mine. Whether you're delivering it to me, whether I'm picking it up, or whether I'm showing you as I exit the store to say, yes, I paid for this stuff. So a lot of really nice feature functionality here within this Tupix app to be able to provide customers a way to do their own transactions. And on that same subject, of course, we have the kiosk edition. So I have an iPad mirrored to here, and this is in general what the kiosk looks like. So this little shopping cart here, this is just the logo that I pulled, and same with the background. So you can put in your own custom logo, your own background, and what's very cool is you can even put in your own custom verbiage. So you can see, welcome to our store, and it's going to give you directions on what to do. So I'm going to press start, select items, checkout, enter a payment method, enter an email if I want to get my receipt that way, or a kiosk may traditionally have a printer on it as well, and finish. So it's a very simple way to do some messaging here. And you could even have, I have thanks for shopping with us. It could say thanks for shopping with us. Don't forget, next week, we've got 20% off of Oakley, right? Because I sell sunglasses and hats. So that's just a way to get a message out to customers in another format. As I said, this is in iOS. I'm actually just running on an old iPad mini, and I'm going to simply select start, and it's going to populate my product catalog. So this is what the customer would see on a kiosk where they can go through. And just like with the other apps, you can configure this. If you want the screen to look a little bit different, you want more of the view that I had on the traditional point of sale with categories and items, you can do that as well. I happen to like this view for kiosks, so I went with it. I can select any of the items, simply add to cart. And let's say I decided after I scrolled down and saw the classic sunglasses, I don't really want the aviators, so I'm just going to easily remove that, right? Anyone should be able to walk up to this, read 5 directions on what to do, and understand how this works. I'm going to add another item, and I'm simply going to check out. A very straightforward process. This has all my payment options here. I don't have credit cards hooked to this one, so I'm going to simply do cash for our purposes of demo, and I'm going to process. Now, when I process, it's going to confirm no money needs to be returned, and it's going to pop up with my order number, the total amount, and if I want to enter an email address here, which is optional for a digital receipt, I can do that as well. Very quick demo because, right, there isn't that much to it. Kiosk is pretty self-explanatory, but again, a great option as we start to move away from contact and that personal interaction that we were all used to several months ago. All right, let me pop back over to here. So now we've seen the product, we've seen what it can do, we've seen that it's fast, it's simple, it's easy to use, and we have all different available formats, all different hardware options. So let's talk about how long before you can be doing it. I like to say that for basic mobile POS use, we could typically have you up and running on a mobile device, a single mobile device, against a single instance of Retail Pro, probably in as little as 2 weeks from sign-off. That includes procurement and setup of the hardware, connection to Retail Pro and setup of the app, and training for you and your staff. Of course, this will vary based on number of devices, mix of formats between traditional POS, handhelds, topics, kiosks, and as always, these projects also depend on you. I'm not going to tell you you can do it in 2 weeks when you can't train for 3 weeks from now. Obviously, that's just not going to work. So this is just a simple kind of ballpark to show you that it can be a pretty quick turnaround. And additionally, if you've already had the devices and you simply turn them off for a period of time, and you want to reactivate them for the season, or you have a special event coming up and say, hey, I've got a device, I need to just get back up and running, that's typically a 2-day, 48 business hour turnaround to get the account turned back on, blow the dust off, do a couple test transactions, and you are ready to go. So this stuff can be very quickly reactivated and reused as the need arises. And then really next steps, let's talk about that. Talk to us. What's your setup? What are your needs? What have you seen today that might be interesting? What other questions do you have, obviously, that you may want to just ask in a one-on-one session? And then let's follow up with another demo. Do you want to see more? Do you want to see some more in-depth on how the flow back and forth with Retail Pro works? Do you want to see some of the variations of the screens, right? Things that we didn't necessarily have the time to get into in a 45-minute, a 1-hour webinar. And then let's get a plan together. So let's talk about what you need, let's show you some more, and then let's plan it out and get you going. All right, so that's the presentation, that is the demo, and let's go ahead and look at some questions. This is always my favorite part because it's definitely a little bit more off the cuff, and I think it adds a lot of value, and we always seem to have a lot of good questions from everyone. Okay, so, all right, I'm just going to take them from the top down, so let's assume that the earliest ones came in the earliest part of the presentation. Let me expand this box just so I can actually see what they say. And we'll pop that out. And yeah, wow, we got a lot of them. So we will move through these. Okay. Is eMobile the only mobile option for Retail Pro? The honest answer is no, right? So Prism has some capability by itself to do some mobile formatting. There are a couple other things out there. Some of you may be using something like Foundry Logic from a while back. Excuse me. So it's not to say that that stuff is not available and doesn't work, but we have partnered with and we have really put our faith in eMobile. That has worked out very well over the last several years, at least 5. That's as many Super Bowls as we've been doing, and we worked with them prior to that as well. So we really feel like this is the way to go. It's the best integration, and they are the most flexible that we have seen as far as you guys have some unique requirements that need to be done. So the capability, the ability, the willingness to do them, and honestly, just a very fast turnaround time. Okay. You mentioned the units are commercial grade, and at a festival it may be hot. Are these okay to use in the heat? And can you see the screen in the sun? Yeah, that's a great question, right? So first and foremost, especially the mobile format, but all the devices that we present, these are all outdoor viewable screens, right? They have to be. That's what half the stuff is used for. And they are also tested in some of the hottest and coldest conditions. We've run them outside in Arizona and Las Vegas in the middle of the summer, right? Not even just outside, but inside of non-air conditioned trailers. We've run them in some colder places during winter, in ski areas and some other facilities that get very, very cold, right? So when you think about an iPad, you think an iPad in 120 degrees after a little bit of time is likely to shut down, right? iPad in 20 degrees may be likely to shut down. These units have been tested for this purpose. They've been tested for a business environment, and that is what they are good at. Let's see. How close to real time will I get my data back at my Retail Pro main? So as I mentioned, about 30 to 60 seconds. Really, it's just the time for the device, the point of sale, to say, hey, I've got a new transaction. Let me send that off. And Retail Pro to say, hey, I see a new transaction. Let me go ahead and add that to the list of receipts. So it is very quick, provided you're online. And if you're not online, it doesn't matter. You can still operate, function, and ring sales. And as soon as you get reconnected, that stuff will all just synchronize. Which actually is the next question. If I lose cell or Wi-Fi, will it still work? And so yes, the answer is absolutely, it will still work. Let's see, do you have to have Retail Pro to use eMobile? Honestly, the answer is no. You know, I would assume everyone here has Retail Pro, so you already have a great system of record. But you know, certainly there may be opportunities where you know, eMobile may be all that you need. So we do talk to customers about that. So I'm just going to be open and honest and say, yeah, absolutely, it does have its own inventory control functions. And as we move down the road with them, you know, we're seeing more and more of that added as well. Do you offer an Apple all-in-one device like the Android you showed? No, and the simple reason is Apple doesn't do it. Apple does not integrate the iOS stuff into devices. Basically, yes, there are all-in-one devices, but basically they have a frame or a case attached to them for an iPad. That's just always been Apple's model, whereas the Android platform can be used on all kinds of integrated hardware. So just another reason why we tend to lean towards the Android. What if I already have an iPad? Can I use it? Sure. Yeah, I mean, the app's going to run on your iPad the same as it would another one. Obviously, there's some, you know, age and version things to consider. I can tell you I'm running, you know, this kiosk on an iPad mini 2, which is iOS 9. So like half the apps in the App Store I can't download. This one works just fine. So yeah, if you have devices, whether it be Android tablets, Apple, talk to us. Let's figure out what you have. Let's figure out what you can use. You know, certainly we're not here to sell you hardware where you don't need it. We want to get you up and running on software and provide you services. So if you've got hardware already, that's great. I'm interested in kiosks. What hardware do you recommend? Yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in kiosks. And I just showed the one picture that we saw, which was kind of a stand-up kiosk. I would say just talk to us if kiosk is a need for you, and we can provide some options for what that hardware may look like. There are all kinds of options, whether it's a freestanding one like we saw, it's simply a wall-mounted unit, which is just a tablet mounted to a wall, maybe with a printer underneath it. So we can do all kinds of creative stuff with that as well. Is there anything I need to do outside of Retail Pro for product changes, additions? Meaning, do I have to do anything to set up the mobile? My understanding of this question is, do you have to do anything other than just set it up in Retail Pro, make your changes in Retail Pro? The answer is pretty much no. There's a couple things if you want to change devices around to locations or do some creative things with the mobile, we can do that. But in general, on a day-to-day basis, no. You manage your inventory in Retail Pro, it goes to the point of sale whether it be mobile or retail pro, and they just operate like anything else. How frequently does data flow? We answered that. 30 to 60 seconds is generally what it's going to be. Can these work on F&B as well as retail? I have a small cafe within my space. Yeah, absolutely. So eMobile, at its core, it was actually an F&B system that has come a long way in retail and has really, kind of migrated into both. So it has a lot of full functionality for food and beverage, whether, again, you run a small cafe or a little coffee bar inside of your retail store, can handle that. If you have a full-blown restaurant, so you say, hey, I'm a retailer, but I also happen to own a restaurant, or I'm a partner in something, talk to us. It's in all kinds of food and beverage operations, from bars to cafes to quick serve to full-blown restaurants. So yeah, certainly talk to us. We'd love to get you some more information and really show you that side of the product on a demo. Can you show the picture of the device again, please? Yeah, why not? So let me scroll back. Yeah, so, and I think that's a good question, actually, is just, people kind of want to see that again. We can certainly get you more information. I kept the specs up here just as part of the image. I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is just kind of give you an idea. And again, this is our the E700 model, which is the larger desktop model, 12.5-inch widescreen. So that is what I'm using here that we saw the full-size point of sale demo on. And then this is the A900, which is the all-in-one handheld unit, but again, still has all of the same functionality as the larger unit does. And I'll just go ahead and leave this picture up here as I take a few more questions. Let's see. So this question basically has to do with Apple. Are there any major differences in the app between Apple and Android? The answer is no. So at the end of the day, it's essentially the same app, right? A couple settings might be in different places, but one of the main things to think about is things like updates, right? So the iOS App Store has a very stringent process. We may need to make a very small update to something for you, and it could take weeks because it has to go through that queue. Versus an Android, an update can be made, it can be given directly to you, it can be applied, and it can be working, within a very, very short period of time. So certainly there are some differences like that, but in general, no, the app's going to look and act pretty much the same. Let's see, if you have multiple locations, each with their own instance of Retail Pro, does Tuppix allow the client to select a location for pickup or delivery? Absolutely. And as I said, you can do a lot of cool things with the QR codes, directing them to different locations, or simply allowing for different pickup options. So that's all in the configuration, and we could definitely get more in depth with you on that as well. Can we white label the Tuppix app to our brand? Yes, I'm going to go ahead and say yes, because we've talked to people about this. So whether it's a white label that it's your branded app, or maybe it's an app within your app, or it's an app within your website. So certainly a lot of options there to be able to brand and embed that app. And all right, let me see, make sure I hit all of these questions. This is good. This is probably the largest number of questions we've had. And as I said, this is my favorite part. Okay. Oh, does the device have any end of day reporting for a clerk to look at? That's actually a great question, and honestly something I should have pointed out in the demo and I didn't. Yes, the device has its own end of day capability. So the same way that your Retail Pro register, Retail Pro point of sale has an X out and a Z out, and here's your tender breakdown and your discounts and all of those summaries. The mobile app has that as well. So the cashier is going to be able to do their own device level reconciliation. And of course, as I said, the transactions go back into Retail Pro. So if you're running a back of house X out or Z out for multiple registers, these are going to be included in that as well. So there's really no difference there. Let's see. Actually, this is a good question. I think I've covered off on everything but this question. So let me go ahead and wrap with this. We're about 10 of, so I think this is good timing. How does eMobile compare to some other mobile solutions that you mentioned? Okay, so the solutions that I mentioned, Foundry Logic, which is a product for Retail Pro, and Prism itself. So Prism, right? Let's talk about that first. Prism is a Windows-based. There are some Apple and Android functionality that we talked about in that Prism webinar. But when we talk about really a developed mobile opportunity and app, it's eMobile versus traditional Prism. And with Foundry Logic, one of the big things that you lack is Foundry Logic needs to be talking to Retail Pro all the time. So eMobile has a complete offline mode, right? Data is downloaded to the device versus having to be on a Wi-Fi network, the same one as your Retail Pro data is. And of course, all the other stuff we covered off on. eMobile is the only one we found that has the omni-channel, portable countertop point of sale, handheld POS, self-checkout kiosks, Tupix mobile app. We talked about the ease of integration, so they have a full API, so we can do a lot of integrations, and we've mentioned API over these weeks in different webinars. So all of that is available within it. It's just, honestly, the last thing I'm going to say is far and away the best mobile solution, the mobile companion, and the mobile partner that we've found, over 5, 6, 7 years, as long as we've been doing this with them. And it's the only solution as well. And this is, I'm just thinking this because I'm looking at the hardware in front of me. That's all in one, right? So we don't need any kind of companion payment device, another little handheld that's in my pocket or in an apron where I have to do the credit cards on that. If we're worried about EMV and P2PE, it's all right here and it's all built in. So with that, I think that was the most questions we've ever had, which is awesome. That was probably 15 or more questions. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up with that question. And as I do, now I'm going to have to jump a few slides. Always end with just a thank you, right? I know that everybody has a lot going on. Everybody, especially now as different states start to reopen, I really do appreciate you spending the time with me. I know I enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find the time to be valuable. And I'm gonna just let you know that we have one more webinar, which is next Thursday. And that is on some of the IMS service offerings and some new stuff we're doing with our service portal. So that's really gonna be a good one. Whether you are just pay as you go for support, you have a support contract, or we already do some managed service things with you, there's still going to be a lot of valuable information for you in that one. So again, just want to say thank you from all of us here at IMS. I hope that everyone has a great day, great rest of the week, great weekend, and look forward to seeing some, most, or hopefully all of you next week.